credit growth exceeded deposit growth last year, and that's a trend we see now over the last couple of years. So over the last 5 years on average, credit growth to the private sector has grown by about 13%, and deposit growth has been clearly lower. Now on the credit side, last year the main driver for credit growth was corporate loan demand, whereas in the years before, it was primarily residential mortgage loan demand. And this corporate loan demand, I expect, will continue to be the driver also in 2025. So I expect in 2025 this growth momentum to continue in terms of credit demand. I expect credit demand to be, again, around 12 to 13%, mainly driven by corporate loan demand. And that has to be seen against the backdrop of a very strong domestic economy, non-oil economy, and the increased need to finance all the Saudi vision initiatives and the projects which need to be adequately financed. That will lead to elevated growth rate also in 2025. On the deposit side, growth will be a little lower. You mentioned that. Last year it was about 9%. Longer term, we are about 8 to 9%. I don't expect this growth to accelerate, all the more as part of these deposits are owned by government institutions, and government institutions in the past, they have shifted their deposits from SAMA balance sheet to the corporate, to the commercial banks, in order also to help fund the commercial banks. These government institutions, they incrementally now need also liquidity to finance their projects and their initiatives. Hence, that's a cap on growth for deposits. So I see the deposit growth for Saudi banks in the range of 8 to 10% in 2025.
So would that translate into pressures on the margin of Saudi banks?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, we see that now over the last couple of years that credit growth is exceeding deposit growth. That means that Saudi banks have been increasingly requested to find alternative sources of funding, and that's what they already started to do. They have primarily tapped capital markets, borrowing locally, borrowing internationally by issuing sukuk, Tier 1 sukuk in the first place, which is hybrid equity capital in the balance sheet of these banks. And that will continue in 2025. So you will see banks continue to issue sukuk to fund their credit demand. And obviously that has an impact on the funding costs. Funding costs go up. Somehow mitigated by the fact that interest rates overall will decrease. They already started to decrease. 3 months SIBOR is at 5.3% at this point, after 6% last year. We see 3 months SIBOR to drop to 4.7 end of this year, 4.2 end of next year, and that has that constitutes a certain relief on the funding side for the banks. All the more as when interest rates drop, then you typically see a shift from interest-bearing deposits to non-interest-bearing deposits, and that has a softening impact on the funding costs for the Saudi banks. However, taking everything into consideration, also on the credit side, net interest margin will be compressed in 2025, but overcompensated by this very strong credit growth I expect for this year, which means that profits of Saudi banks will nevertheless grow by about 10 to 12% this year.